Welcome back to Ultrascape podcast. We're now on episode 5. I'm Josh Ibbett, and as always, I'm joined by Becky Waters. Becky, hello, how are you?
Well, thank you, Josh. Anticipating picking up your bike later for mine and my brother's cycle tour at the end of the month.
Sounds good. You've just ruined one of my segments. I was going to sneak into the end of the podcast now. But there we go. You've got a rather fetching hat on today, Becky. Where did you get that from?
That came in the post in an envelope written by what looks to be a teenage boy with his left hand. I didn't know you had such bad handwriting.
It was in a rush, all right. But anyway, yeah, Becky is modelling our new caps. The merch has arrived, so yeah, you could be the proud owner of one of these. I'll put the link on the screen if that's the kind of thing you're interested in. And also got the little Ultrascape zines as well, which are put together, so you can get those as well. So what have you got coming up this podcast then, Becky?
We'll take a look at some of the races that are finished / still ongoing as we record. We'll look into the 7-day world record, which we mentioned and talked about slightly wrongly last episode. So I guess there's a correction in this episode. And then the upcoming races. And that's it. It doesn't sound like much, but it should actually be quite a long.
Some drama as well. Some drama. But we'll get on to that. But before we do, we need to thank our sponsors. So Redshift, they've been with us since the very start. They make this happen. So a big thank you to Redshift. I've just been fitting various grips and things for upcoming events, in actual fact, onto my bike that I'm not going to be riding. So Becky's brother is going to be trialling the full setup of Redshift with the suspension stem and the new bars and the grips. So I'm sure we'll have a full report after that. But in the meantime, if that's what you're into, we've got a discount. We'll put that on screen. And big thank you to Redshift. And this month's or this week's episode sponsor is Albion. Albion Cycling. They've got some really good new layers. We saw them actually at the show, didn't we, Becky? A few weeks back. The new UV layer to stop you getting sunburnt. I've not used it yet because, well, there's no sun to actually burn me. It's been pretty grim weather around here, hasn't it? I went bikepacking at the weekend in the Peak District and I camped out and I woke up on Monday morning to sideways rain and it was 2 degrees. So I did not use the UV layer. I used the insulated layer. So yeah, whatever you need, insulation or UV protection, we've got a 15% discount for Albion. So I'll put that link up as well. And yeah, I suppose we better get on to it. So as we talked about last episode, which a couple of weeks ago, not even that, we're kind of bringing this forward a little bit as we've got lots going on, haven't we, Becky? The 7-day distance world record. So it was broken, and we talked about it last episode by Alex McCormack, and we did have I had a vague memory of a conversation about someone else taking it on quite quickly, which happened down the pub at the Bespoke show, and we're a bit hazy on details. But it turns out, actually, Becky, I was right. there was someone else about to take on the record. So a German rider, Daniel Steinhauser. He has broken Alex's record by about 35 kilometers. So he did 3,860k in 168-hour ride time. So that's a hell of a whack in 7 days. So again, he did it on a similar setup to Alex, on a full-on time trial bike with a support crew. He was I think he was in Bavaria somewhere, wasn't he? Somewhere between Munich and Stuttgart on sort of the Bavarian border. Looks like he used a series of circuits to cover that distance. And actually it's his second world record after his 24-hour indoor record on a stationary bike. Sounds horrendous. That's a proper endurance test.
You couldn't pay me enough to do either of these.
No.
24-hour or 7 days.
Or just ride a turbo trainer, to be fair, for more than an hour. He set the distance of 962 kilometres. So yeah, I mean, riding outside on a TT bike after that is probably like a holiday, isn't it? So yeah, so Alex had the record for a couple of weeks, but it's now been broken. So yeah, well done, Daniel, on that. And what else has been going on, Becky?
The Highland Trail Ht550 started in Scotland last Saturday. We had, I think we mentioned it in the previous episode, we had 50-50 women to men, which the races had before a couple of years ago and again for this year. So Alan's done really well to bring those numbers back up. There was a little bit of scrambling around for women in the week beforehand. So a few women lined up knowing that they wouldn't finish, including Lee Craigie and Phil Batty. But they, like I said in the last episode, Alan's told me those last-minute women won't trouble the leaders. And then I found out it was Lee Craigie and Phil Batty, and I thought he's throwing me down the garden path
they've
there.
both been right up there, haven't they, in previous editions? Well, has Lee still got the record? Or
yes,
did Kerry
from
beat it?
2018. No, Kerry's not come close to it. And on this edition, it was too wet and a bit too windy and wild for any records to be broken.
Didn't it? I mean, I've seen some of the photos, and it was just all seasons in a day as it can be up in Scotland. I mean, you've experienced it, I've experienced it. Just horrendous rain, snow, sub-zero conditions overnight. There's some beautiful photos where it obviously rained and then frozen. It sounded grim, didn't it?
Yeah, it's unusual for it to be quite that cold, I think, in the Highland Trail. Yeah, but it is 2 weeks earlier than...
Yeah, but the weather's just been all over the shop in the UK recently, and in Europe as well, as we'll come on to soon. I think the climate's definitely changing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was so wet. We saw a couple of riders in marigolds. But yeah, so the race has been won. Justyna Slawajka, who was arguably the race favourite, came in first in just under 3 days and 12 hours. I think he was the only rider under 4 days. Behind him, Ash Cordingley came in about 12 hours later. And then Ben Brow, in 4 days, 6 hours, came in third.
In the men's, that is.
Third in the men's, you're right, exactly. Third overall was Kerry McPhee, and she was the fastest woman. And you've put in the notes here, she actually had the second fastest moving average speed.
Yeah, it looks like she stopped a little bit more, but she was actually moving across the ground faster than Ashley in second. And fell in a river again. Remember last year we discussed she got swept away because it was wild again, wasn't it? And her bike got washed a couple of K down the stream. But yeah, I read somewhere that she's sort of fell into a river again. I don't know what it is with Kerry in water, but she seems to get attracted to it.
Yeah, there's a magnetic pull. So she came in 4 days, 1 hour and 52 minutes. A second woman who was 8th overall, we've seen quite a few women place fairly highly overall this year, was Nicolette Jones, who I don't think we mentioned her in the pre-race, in the preview.
No, I don't think we did.
No, that was our oversight, because if we'd known what she'd done, we would have put her name in. She came 4th and 5th at the Colorado Trail and Arizona Trail race, respectively, in 2025. And this was her first time racing the Highland Trail. She said she's never been so wet for so long, which, if you've raced at the Colorado and Arizona, makes sense.
I mean, even Justyna, I've chatted to him a bit the last couple of days, bearing in mind he's just done Iditarod, and he'd said similar things as well. Is there something about, I mean, when it's bad weather in the UK, I mean, Highland Trail can be grim. I've been up there when it's been 30 degrees, and I've also been up there when it's just been almost drier to ride down the streams than off the streams. And yeah, it's just relentless, isn't it?
Yeah. And then the third woman,
who we also missed from our list.
I think we mentioned her, but I think we underestimated her. Yeah. And I think for me, this is the standout ride. It's Ruby Beardsall on a gravel bike at her rookie Highland Trail. She came in 9th overall, joint with Niall Shannon, in just under 5 days, on a gravel bike. That's
impressive. Yeah, we talked about it. I talked to her a while back, probably last year. She's sort of was involved with the Albion guys, and she was saying, "Oh, do you think I'll get round on a gravel bike?" I was like, yeah, you'll get round, but it might be hard. But then, she was one of the fastest riders on the Tour de Fast last year, wasn't she? Which took in a number of those sections. So she did have some experience. But fair play doing that on a gravel bike. It batters you on a mountain bike, let alone a gravel bike. So that is a very, very impressive ride, it has to be said.
Absolutely. Following on from Highland Trail is the it's part of the UK Triple Crown, and the remaining 2 events in that were the Dells Divide that happened on Easter weekend, and then the North Wales 400, which will happen, the Grander Part will be later this week. And Ash Cordingley, who came second, and Kerry McPhee, who came third overall here at the Highland Trail, they're doing the UK Triple Crown together as a pair. So they'll have to go back and do the Highland Trail again as a pair before they then do the North Wales 400.
At least they can pick the weather window, though, because it can be absolutely beautiful, as you said, in the Highlands. When the weather's good, it's just one of the best places on earth, apart from the midges. But when it's wet, it can be challenging. Let's just say you always need to pack more than probably 3 pairs of dry socks, I'd say. This is my one bit of advice for the Highland Trail. And you'll still get wet feet anyway.
I've picked out a quote from the race from the Dot Watcher commentary from Rachel Wheatstone, and she said that her shoes fell apart, as did I, on Lead Moor Traverse. And I think we all understand that, given how relentless the Lead Moor Traverse is.
Yes, I think I've fallen apart on there a couple of times in my life.
Elsewhere, ongoing still is the LostDot 101. They're from the organisers of the Transcontinental, Transpyrenees and the Accursed race, is the Flinter race, so the women non-binary riders race in Spain. This was also quite wet and wild. It doesn't seem like any race has been spared of some wet weather. Yesterday, which was Wednesday, the 4th day of the race, I believe, was actually the first dry day. If you look back through the photos on the Instagram, there's not the first few days. You barely saw any skin. Everyone's pretty much head to toe in waterproofs, which for a race in Spain is pretty tough.
But it can be wild there because they're on sort of going down the border of Portugal and Spain, and there's a bit of a plateau there. It is relatively high.
Okay.
And yeah, again, when the weather sets in up there, it can be quite exposed and grim, and so yeah, wet weather all round really.
Well, Anna Richter didn't take any time in finishing. They took the win in 3 days, 3 hours and 30 minutes with a monster lead to Amrei Kuna, who finished 3 days, 15 hours and 8 minutes. They both totaled about 1,290 kilometres of riding, which was quite interesting. There doesn't seem to be that much variation in the distances so far, but at the time of recording, they're the only 2 finishers, so we'll know a bit more.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Anna. Did that monster ride at the Atlas Mountain race earlier this year. They were top 15 overall.
Yeah, they finished ahead of Cynthia.
Yeah, which was super impressive. So yeah, really great work from
and to have
Anna.
To have gone from an off-road event like that so early in the season to quite a quick gravel event shows, I think, quite a lot of breadth in their skills.
Definitely.
The race for third was the more exciting part of the race. Anna and Amrei pretty much dominated their positions quite early on, but for third it was wide open last night. There was only 15 kilometres between the third and sixth rider. However, Jean Lepoix scratched earlier this morning due to saddle sores, which left Elise Sauvigny, Megan Young and Nikki Shaw battling it out for third position. We're yet to know who comes in, but it looks like it will be Elise Sauvigny at the time of recording.
Yeah, and that should be, they should get through later today, I think. Elsewhere, well, we previewed this one in the last episode, the Traka, the Traka Ht550 or Traka Adventure. We'll come on to this more in a while because there's plenty to discuss about it. So the women's race was won by Maddie Nutt. So she's a pro gravel racer. She actually won a couple of the UCI gravel events. So yeah, she's done some of the kind of more adventurous stuff. She raced the what's the one in Colombia? Transcordilleras, yeah.
Transcordilleras,
and things like that. So yeah, she's gets out there, does some pretty cool stuff. Second, Mariah Moldenhauer, who of course we had as a guest on the podcast last year. I think it's safe to say that she's coming back well from her double knee surgery. She was actually leading for a lot of the race through there's basically the race is kind of almost a race of two halves. So the course at the start goes into the foothill of the Pyrenees, big long climbs, and obviously Mariah's, well, as Becky has pointed out a number of times, she's quite quick, and I've been dropped by her a number of times on the big climbs. And it sounds like she had a few sort of stomach problems later on, and then it's flatter at the end, and Maddie caught and passed her. She didn't beat her by much, though. I think it was fairly close.
Only looked to be about 30 minutes, I think.
Yeah, which is nothing really over that distance. And then third place, Jana Kessenheimer, current TCR champion, 2 times winner. And fourth, Leah Wilcox. And yeah, I mean, just the names on that on the front of the women's race, pretty spectacular. Lizzie Hermel was in 5th. I think that was her first kind of ultra race. She's also the British gravel champion though, so she's got some pedigree. So we've talked about these kind of events before. They're kind of like on the long end of gravel events and the short end of ultra, and you get this really interesting crossover of kind of athletes. So yeah, it's good to see kind of like the gravel racers mixing up with some of the best ultra racers out there. And we had similar in the men's as well. So Victor Bazzani won the men's for the second time. Max Agut, I think that's how you say, French rider, was second, and a name you may recognise again, he was second at the Atlas Mountain Race, Ole Bjorn Smithgel. He came in 3rd place, and yeah, so really strong rides from all of them. But yeah, there was drama, so we'll talk about that in a bit more depth in a minute. A couple of other kind of DNFs. There seems to be a lot of broken rims. I think the pace was really high, and some riders were taking risks or riding pretty hard. Not necessarily inexperienced riders either. So 3 scratches with broken rims. Ulrich Bartholomew, Robin Gempele and Cynthia Carson all had to scratch because of cracking rims. I was chatting a bit to Angus Young. I think he was 5th actually. So good strong ride from him, and he was saying this with Ulrich when he broke his rim, and he basically just hit a massive 4-inch rock in the track. And I guess when you're riding fast or on the wheel or in a, it's closer riding, these things can happen. So it's a shame those guys had to scratch. And Cynthia as well. I know put a lot of work in because she's a Girona local. So yeah, so watch out for those rocks, I guess. But there we go. That's bike racing, isn't it? The classic thing to finish first. First you've got to finish is the thing that comes to mind there. But there we go. So yeah, that was a brief overview of the Traka, but more on that in a minute because yeah, there's lots to talk about. But before we get to that, we've got some more races coming up in the next few weeks. First up is the Hellenic Mountain Race in Greece, which is the second in the mountain race series. Starts on the 23rd of May in, where does it start? It's changed start location. Agios somewhere. I'm racing it myself. I don't even know where it starts. It's pretty much up on the northern border of Greece near Macedonia. So the route's changed a little bit compared to the last few years. Before it started with a bit of a loop before heading down south. But this year it's kind of more of the loop's been removed. So it goes through the mountains, which, I mean, you think of a race in Greece and you think it's going to be warm and sunny, but I think it's changeable. There's some pretty, those mountains that seem to attract the weather. So I'm expecting mixed conditions, stormy, wet, too hot, probably too cold as well. So that should be good. And it's, 28,000 meters of climbing over the distance, over 880k. So it's substantial.
One of the hilliest races on the calendar, because 880k isn't long.
No.
But it's meaty.
Yeah. It's definitely, put it this way, last year a lot of people cracked in the last day or so. So I'd probably expect the same again. And we've not seen the actual start list yet. However, there's a few people we know who are going. So on the women's side of things, Cynthia Carson, well, actually, the 2 names we've got are Justina Yarkos, we've talked about a lot recently, the winner of Dale's Divide. She's doing all the mountain races, as well as Cynthia as well. So they'll both be there. Cynthia won at Atlas, so yeah, she'll be looking to probably get another win, I expect. Justina is very good at the mountain biking as well, and is more of a mountain bike orientated course. So be interesting to see how she goes. And there could be more as well. We just haven't seen the start list as we record. And on the men's side of things, 3 names that I've picked out. Again, the same applies. There could be others. So first up, Ilias Civilis. So he's a name that doesn't crop up too often, but he's got some really strong results. He's been top 5 in the Atlas Mountain Race. He's won the race around Rwanda. A Lithuanian rider. I've met him a few times, and yeah, super strong. And he, goes out hard to compete. Benedict Borsos, again, second at Atlas Mountain Race. He was actually second at Trans-Balkan last year as well. So he'll be definitely one to watch. And Max Rice, again, he's a climber. He set the Everesting no, what was it? The triple Everesting world record last year. Max is
God, it's horrendous.
Not quite as bad as a 24-hour indoor cycling record, but
yeah.
But nonetheless, Max is he's very experienced. He was he like 4th or 5th in Tour de Ville last year. He's finished 3 Silver Mountain races, I think. Dan Atlas, I know him fairly well. And he's a top climber. So we'll see what Max goes on.
One of the most consistent riders I can think of. I can't think of an event that he's won, but I can't think of many that he's scratched.
No, yeah, exactly. He's a solid kind of, top 5 to 10 rider.
Be great to see him win something.
Yeah,
unless he already has.
I'd prefer to win it.
Yeah, maybe
another event. But to be fair, I don't even think I could. These guys are strong, so we'll see. But yeah, that's going to be good. So there'll be loads of good coverage, and I think on the next podcast I'm going to try and do a bit of on the ground reportage. So I've made loads of promises about the podcast in the past weeks, and to be fair, I've not come through on any of them yet. With guests,
get an interview with Max while you when you wait for him at the finish.
So yeah, I'll endeavour to do that. We'll try and bring some interesting stuff to the podcast. So that is the Hellenic Mountain Race. So that's kind of the reason that we're quite quick soon on our podcast as well. Only 10 days after the last one because I'm off next Tuesday. And then the other event is it's the big Balkan bike ride, isn't it, Becky? Not the Trans-Balkan race.
I knew you were going to do that.
Becky and Owen's big Balkan bike tour.
Our big 6-day express. I'm going to get him to promise a beer stop each afternoon and a coffee stop each morning because it's going to be quite laid back. I don't know if your Mason Icer has ever gone so slow.
So this is Owen is Becky's brother, and is this his first time bikepacking?
He's done something up in, he did like the North Coast 500 up in Wales with some of his rugby team a couple of years ago. And they had a lot of fun. So I'm hoping we just have a bit of fun in Montenegro for 6 days. I haven't checked the weather. I barely know the route. He's actually designed the route, which is so embarrassing between the two of us, but he's the organised one.
So there we go. So are you going to be crossing paths with the Trans-Balkan race?
Possibly. It depends on our route. I think we're doing it clockwise, so we might not. But if we were to do it anti-clockwise, we might ride towards the riders, but we'll have left the finish by the time they arrive. So I'm not sure is the honest answer.
Watch this space.
Yeah, I'll crop out of a bush, do some on-the-ground reporting.
Which brings us quite handily on to the Trans-Balkan race.
Yeah, the Trans-Balkan race starts on the 29th of May. It's a 1,400 kilometre route. It's an A to B route, which is quite interesting. And it starts in Cezana, Slovenia. And it goes through Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and it finishes in Montenegro. So it's quite coastal in Croatia and then slightly inland as you get into Bosnia and Montenegro.
I think it ramps up in hardness as you go on as well. Like I was entered to do it this year, but I'm just not able to go, unfortunately, hence going back to Hellenic. But I've only heard really, really good things about the route. And I think it's one of those events which is kind of grown in popularity and I guess prestige as well. So yeah, shame not to be there myself, but Hellenic's not a bad alternative, to be fair.
The route, it prides itself on being quite rough and hard, but not with minimal bike. So it should almost be rideable, which compares quite well to a lot of the hillier races. We have an elevation per kilometre document, and it's very boring, very black and white. But the essence of it is that it's a hilly race. It has more elevation per kilometre than Highland Trail and Silk Road, although Highland Trail probably has more hiking and Silk Road's at altitude.
But the Balkans can't be underestimated. It is quite tough riding, but then things like resupply are pretty good as well. So yeah, I think it makes for a good route and a good race.
We should see the winner come in sub 5 days, hopefully. And the names we're looking at, I'll fly through the women's names and I'll leave the men's names to Josh because I think you know quite a few of them. But the first woman I've picked out is Jenny Tuff, whose name will be familiar to many people who've been following bikepacking for the past few years. There aren't many continents she hasn't raced on. and she's been getting back. I think it's fair to say she's been getting back into it a bit more in the past few years. She would have been one of the top women about maybe 7 years ago.
The early Atlas and Silk Roads and things like that. She was doing really well at. But I think she's quite a versatile athlete as well. Does a lot of running as well. So cycling's not her main or her only focus.
Sure. Next to her would be Sami Sauri. She finished first woman at Across Andes and second woman at Silk Road last year. So we should expect to see her go quite well, given I think she's well suited to the rougher races. Carlotta Schumacher, am I right in saying she cycled between all of Nelson's races last year?
Yeah, it seems like she's been on the road all winter. I'm always seeing her in different places. She was in like China and Vietnam and loads of places. And yeah, a real character, and she's gonna put in a really good ride there as well.
And Dilara Tuna, she finished at the Grand Guanche Audax Trail this year, and I think last year or maybe the year before, and then she's finished at Hellenic and Silk Roads. So and she's a mountain guide in Europe through the summer and winter. So the kind of mountainous, elemental, exposed nature of the route shouldn't rattle her too much. It's just whether she can ride a bike quickly enough to do well. It's probably the uncertainty with Dilara.
Yeah, didn't she? She did Hellenic last year and then did like an ultramarathon at the weekend after or something. Do you remember?
Yeah,
I couldn't walk for like a week after. I was absolutely knackered. Then you hear she's run an ultramarathon. Like, Jesus. That's impressive. On the men's side of things, so a few riders just pop out. So Alex Kopp, a good friend of mine. He's won. He won the accursed race, so similar terrain a couple of years back, and I think there is a bit of an overlap on the course. So he'll be familiar. Floris Brat, he beat me at Hellenic last year, didn't he? So he was third at Hellenic Mountain Race. Pipped me by half an hour last year, but again, super strong rider. He was an Olympian. He was an Olympic kayaker in the Athens Olympics, which was, I can't remember if we mentioned that last year or not. But
you probably did, about the person who beat you, Josh. You probably got that in.
Maybe. George Sales, again, he's kind of put a lot of work in. He was third at Dales Divide. So it'd be interesting to see how George goes. And Jochen Linhart, again, I think he's done Trans-Balkans before. I think he did Atlas at the start of the year, so he's pretty experienced. So again, I think he'll be a name to watch on the Trans-Balkan race. So yeah, that's kind of our little previews for the next few weeks.
I'll add one pair to that is Josh Reed and Liam Yates, both of whom we've mentioned quite a few times in the podcast.
Are they riding as a pair?
If I've understood the map progress correctly, which I think I have, yes, they are.
Well, Josh is still currently in the Highlands somewhere, so it's going to be a quick turnaround for him. It sounds like he's going to get home and fly straight out or travel straight out to Slovenia, so good on him. But yeah, Josh does loads of really good videos and stuff, so I'm sure there'll be an interesting film about the Highland Trail and Trans-Balkans as well.
We'll move on to our usual gossip segment at the end of the podcast. Yeah. I've coined it Trauma. That's Traka drama, of which there's many, so settle in. Since the event 2 weekends ago, there's been quite a lot of talk on social media and then in press about some misbehaviour before and during the event, including riders getting support and resupply, the winner, Victor Bassoni, missing certain sections of the route, the race organisers' level of organisation of the event is in question. We're not even supposed to call it a race, I think, but we'll also get onto that, as well as a past doper finishing second. So the headlines that we've picked up from websites like Road CC and Velo Headline are a track or gravel race organiser accused of filming while driving an event marred by reports of illegal drafting and course cutting. We said before the record, the illegal drafting and course cutting is quite shocking, but I don't really know an organiser who hasn't filmed while they've been driving. Not that we condone it at all, but I don't know if that's the worst of the crimes. And then the Velo News headline is course cutting, a past doper and testosterone treatment. The Traka Adventure is teeming with controversies, and I suppose I should specify this is the Traka Adventure. It's not the 360 or the other events that have attracted so much.
Yeah, I mean,
so much controversy.
You do hear rumblings about the 360 at times as well. But yeah, I thought the best thing to do is basically take those titles and sort of discuss them, because I think there's quite a bit that does need to be talked about. So just background on the Traka 560. This is the second edition. Well, it's called the Traka Adventure officially, also known as the Traka 560. It doesn't really know what it wants to be. So the Traka is an event. It's the Europe's premium gravel event. So the 360 was a big event up until a couple of years ago, and I rode it 3 or 4 years ago when the 360 was. I mean, that was the one. People like Justinus, Ulrich Bartholomew, these guys that we talk about quite a lot, were doing the 360. But then the gravel world's just exploded, and now the 360 is the main headline event. And the finishing times have come down to like less than 10 hours, a bit like the Unbound in the US. So I think that's Europe's version of it, and it's a big festival, and there's 100k, 200k, 360, and then this Traka Adventure was added a couple of years back. The first edition was basically they cancelled it because it was raining, which caused some comments. But last year was the first edition that kind of took place, and I was there myself, and yeah, it's a good route, it's a good course. I would say on my kind of experience from last year, it does feel like it's kind of just been bolted on to a gravel event, which is not necessarily the best thing. And I did see some cheating, like resupply. I just came around the corner and saw a guy sat on a deck chair with his next to a camper van with like it looked like his mum and dad or someone just pouring water over him and filling his camelback, and I was like, oh Jesus, come on. But I kind of knew he was toasted, so and I did pass a control cut or one of the organisers and just say, look, I think you should go up there and have a look, but nothing ever happened. So it's one of those things. However, this year there's been loads of stuff that's made headlines. So I guess the key things, doping, past doping, potentially, course cutting, and then some things about Classmark, who were the organisers of the Traka, and their organisation, or maybe lack of, So we'll just talk it through, really, because there's a bit out there. So I guess doping always gets headlines, doesn't it? It's easy for these kind of more mainstream websites to talk about doping, because cycling and doping have historically been connected. So although it is improving, I think, to a certain point, possibly, it's an easy headline. So the thing that people were picking up on was that so Max, the guy who finished second, so Max Agut, he was he pro or amateur? Maybe a lower level pro, high level amateur rider. He got banned for 4 years for EPO, and his ban expired, I think, a couple of weeks before the Badlands last year, and then he went and won the Badlands, and won the Trans-Pyrenees as well, and then came second here at the Traka Adventure, or Traka 560, and it sounds like he nearly won it as well. He was closing in on Victor, but he crashed and broke his handlebars, which slowed him up again. So eventually he came second. So I guess there's no anti-doping, basically. So I guess that raises questions, doesn't it? When someone has had a ban, but then has come back into a different arena where there is no anti-doping. Quite rightly, people ask questions, and it's things that have been, you hear murmurs and people, discontent in the background, but no one really says anything. But it's come to a head here, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably worth saying that, I mean, as far as I know, he hasn't broken any rules. He served his ban, and that expired at the end of August last year. So, and there's also, like you say, there's no rules in bikepacking about doping, and it all feels very new, I feel.
Yeah.
I didn't think we'd ever have to talk about this 6 years ago.
No. And then I suppose the other thing that probably just to talk about as well is Victor. He's the next big thing in bikepacking, really, isn't he? or ultra racing now we have to call it, not for bikepacking, I think. So he won the TCR last year. He won Atlas, and he's won. This is his second Traka. So he was an elite cyclist, but then he stopped racing because I think, well, I don't know the exact medical terms, but basically he had low testosterone and wasn't basically developing as much as he should have been, I think. He's openly said this in numerous articles as well. So, I'm not really one for trying to spread gossip or anything like that, and I don't want to be basically kind of, starting one on Victor. But he's openly said this. It's been on a few podcasts and things. So then, obviously, the people are asking the question, well, if you've had this testosterone treatment, which if he was racing on a UCI team, he wouldn't be able to race because it's a banned controlled substance. So I think a lot of people are asking questions about his kind of has he basically used that for whatever it might be legitimate medical reasons? Has he used that to then kind of develop as a racer? And obviously that's just it's just made headlines, hasn't it? I mean, if he'd been finishing 10th in all these races, I don't think it would have been. It wouldn't have made headlines, but because he's winning, when you win races, high-profile races, people look at you, and I think that's happened here, hasn't it?
He's winning and he's making a living, I believe, from the sport.
He is now, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, well, let's get on to the next thing. So the thing that people have picked up, and someone's gone to the pains of highlighting every single time he's cut the course, which. Well, it is what it is, really, I suppose. So let's just be clear. It's about 400 meters worth of course, and some of them, I think, I'm sure. To be fair to Victor, I'm sure that he's not the only person that has, run alongside the road rather than the bike path, as some sections show. Because sometimes on a track, it's not that clear. If a cycle path is really close to a main road or a road. The line on the map can pretty much, your GPS cannot kind of pick it up. However, there are a few sections where there's kind of a loop around a village or a loop up and sort of around and up over a bridge where he's kind of taken the direct line, which isn't great. I mean, again, I'm sure he's not the only one that did it in the race. However, I think it possibly isn't. Given his rising profile, maybe it's a bit naive of Victor to do that. Could well be a silly mistake. I'm pretty sure he's got a load of shit on the internet because the internet's pretty unforgiving when things like this happen. So yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. I think he's not helping himself, especially when people make not rumors, but there's murmurings in the background about the whole testosterone thing, and then he posts on the internet. It could have been the algorithm timing, but like a few days after I saw this thing about, he put a photo of him when he was racing elite. Like, I used to be 45 kilos and now I'm like 67. Like, I think it's a bit naive for Victor. But he's a young guy, so I'm hoping maybe this might be a bit of a shake-up for him, and he's got to keep a clean nose now, I would say.
Yeah, he's only 24, isn't he?
24, yeah.
He's 24. And you talk about the 400 meters. He finished, well, the time difference between Victor and Max was about 7 minutes. So he didn't win on that course cutting alone.
I think that's fair as well. And just be clear, I'm not saying that Victor's doping because he's had testosterone treatment, because it sounds like he probably needed it. But and to be fair to him, he's won the TCR. He's won the Traka, and you don't win that just on legs alone. And he's always
There's so much more to bikepacking than your hemoglobin counts or whatever doping does to you.
Just making decisions, and it's always struck me. I've always been quite impressed by Victor. Certainly in the Atlas this year and the TCR, he always seems to be very consistent and seems to make good decisions. And has ridden his own race and not let others kind of sway him. And you remember a couple of years ago in his first TCR, do you remember he forgot his passport, didn't he? And he rode across the Alps.
It was like a 500-kilometer detour over the Alps to go and pick up his passport.
He rode back to get it, and to me that's kind of regardless of the rest of the noise, that's impressive. And I think he's definitely got the right head to do it. The rest of it, I mean, I can see why he's gone out and been quite open in the media before he won the TCR as well. I think it's fair to say about his testosterone treatment. He's been open. I don't think he's trying to hide it. But when you do say things like that, you've got to keep your nose clean. And I think maybe even 400 meters in a race for keeping your nose clean, I'm sure he's probably had a load of grief on the internet and social media. Probably doesn't need any more. So I think, Victor's I think he's a young guy. He's got a lot of talent. And hopefully it's a bit of a silly mistake and a warning to kind of keep your nose clean, because I believe he's at the Tour Divide next month, and you won't get away with it there. And now everyone's going to be watching him, and probably there's a few people that want to beat him as well. So we'll see how he handles it. But I mean, obviously you just highlighted Victor here, but when you win, that's kind of the attention you get. And I think also Classmark need a bit of a rant about them, to be fair, because Victor, maybe he took a few shortcuts and saved himself 400 meters, but Classmark have done nothing. They were quite happy to announce him as a winner on this adventure race of ride, which isn't one of those not a races, but is a race. Quite happened to have a podium, quite happened to have him under their big banner, holding his bike above his head and shout about him. So I think Classmark probably need to take a bit more responsibility. Because if that had happened in a mountain race or a LostDot race, there would have been time penalties for sure, out of principle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've had them
Traka
before.
Traka do release a result sheet, so they could penalise him or disqualify anyone. They have disqualified people in the past, I believe.
And 7 minutes as well. That's not much, and that is. I mean, it's fair to say if it had been like one of the LostDot races or a mountain race, he wouldn't have won it, because the penalty would have been minimum 10 minutes, probably an hour. Like when I won TCR back in the day, 2015, I got a penalty because I went through a tunnel and missed a cycle path, which was, it happens. By the time I got into the tunnel and realised it was downhill off from Montgenèvre, and I missed a cycle path around the edge, and you're going down a tunnel and not much you can do about it then. And I got the penalty. So it does happen. And but yeah, I just think Victor's got to be a bit careful, but Classmark should have done something really. So there was quite a few rumblings on social media and stuff from people who were racing, sort of just. They're often quite cryptic, aren't they? Saying a lot without saying anything. But I think actually there's been some positive kind of moves. So an open letter was sent to Classmark, signed by a number of riders who are in the race. So Chris Melman, Ulrich Bartholomew, Robin Gemperle, Angus Young, Adam Jordan, Charles Hall, Niels Langer, Justinia Yarksog. So basically they've kind of just put their grievances towards Classmark, which is positive. But I think the main things were that my perspective is that it's not the priority, the adventure. They just sort of bolted it onto the end of the 360, which is their flagship race. And as a result, I think the start was moved loads of times. So last year it started on Thursday morning, and the 360 started on the Saturday, and then there was like the 200 on the 360 started on the Friday, and then the 200 and 100 on the Saturday. And I think this year it was just moved about 3 or 4 times. So the start time was meant to be Thursday, then it got moved to Friday at some point before the 360 and then after, or something like that. So when you're trying to plan and book accommodation and travel, and then the race or the start event, I should call it event really, because it's not billed as a race. I think it's one of those classic, it is a race until the insurance company asks what it is, and then it's just an adventure. I think that's what we're dealing with, to be fair. So yeah, I think it annoyed a lot of people, and then obviously when people start getting annoyed and grumbling, people pick up on it, and then everything comes out, doesn't it? Like filming while driving and looking at every detail of every rider and all of these things. And then people like Victor have not necessarily helped by not sticking exactly to the route. And to be clear, I'm almost certain he would have not been the only one that did that. But there's no one enforcing it, which I think is a problem. And I think basically it's gravel race organisers are not the same as ultra race organisers. It's a very different beast, I'd say. So I think that they've kind of, again, maybe overlooked a lot of things because the focus is on the event. the festival as a whole. So I think that there's a few things that probably needed to change to make it a better experience. Like, firstly, the tracking system. I don't know what it was, but it's horrendous. It's like the cheapest tracking system you can get, and it's
and there's no excuse for that other than keeping costs down. Plenty of good ones exist, and it's
And I guess the other thing that kind of maybe they don't appreciate is that there's quite a network of dot watchers behind the scene. So like Nelson, has lots of people watching his races. You get like maybe 10 or 15 riders to watch, and then you make sure that there's, they're tracking at the right time. They don't suddenly jump forward 100k down the route, which has been known when people have got in cars and stuff. And there they hit all the GPX or hit right of the route, same as LostDot. And like not everyone knows, but my mum has been kind of coordinating the team of dot watchers in the background for years. So there is quite an unknown kind of, at least publicly, system in the background. And I think maybe if you're going to have an event which is getting prestige, because the Traka is, everyone talks about it. It's a 500k event, and people talk about it like it's one of the biggest things ever, which is probably a reflection of the event and the fact that all the media, all the brands are there. It starts in Girona, one of the cycling hubs. Brands are there, based there. Factor, who sponsor Victor, and a few others as well. They launched their new bike there.
There was a Rafa get-together as well, wasn't there?
There's an everyone get-together. It's just I've been part of a few, like Ride with GPS last year had a get-together because they're the map thing. It's like you go out and there's like every cafe, like they've got like almost like hour slots for brand group rides. It's kind of a big deal. A big deal in a small world. We are talking. I'm a minority sport of cycling. Within that, a minority of the gravel riders. Within that, a minority bikepacking ultra riders. So just to keep things in perspective, but yeah, it's becoming quite a big thing in the gravel world. A lot of the media's there, or in the cycling world, a lot of the media's there. The big media's, hence it. These little gripes, kind of, making headlines. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. My gripe at the moment is gravel races putting an ultra on the end. So I think Unbound obviously was the big one in the States, and they had the Unbound XL, which seemed to work quite well. And then you see the Traka have their own one. This is obviously their version of the Unbound XL. And then you see other gravel events. So, for example, the Gralloch Ultra, which starts this weekend, which is 300k. It's a UCI gravel event in the UK. And it's like, why have they, this is me just going off on a rant, why have you just bolted a longer ride on and called it an ultra? It's like, it strikes me as a bit of a money grab, to be honest. And I hope that's not the case, but it's optics, isn't it? Which is a shame. So hopefully Classmark can improve it, because it's turning into a bit of a marquee event. And it's not all bad news. I've done a number of Classmark events. So they had the Girona mountain bike single track challenge a few years back, which was quite a good 3-day stage race, which was much smaller, by the way. And then I did the Traka 360 a couple of years back. And then last year I went back again to the 560, and it was just like a whole, like 2 or 3 times as big. It's gone big. I almost feel like it's grown, sort of like a monster out of control. It's just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're almost like grappling with controlling what's going on, and it's kind of overtaking them. But there is good things about the track. I'm not just going to be negative. Like, it's a good course. It's a strong field. It attracts a lot of people. Like, you look at that start list, and there's a lot of Tour Divide winners and TCR winners in that start list. And it grows the brand. It gets a lot of people, draws people in. A lot of brands are looking at it. A lot of media is looking at it. And in this instance, it's turned negative, but there's no reason why it could be positive. And as we discussed before, it's kind of short on the ultra side, or maybe really long on the gravel side, but it is a gateway to get more people into the sport. And, Maddie Nutt won.
It bridges the gap effectively in the right location, I feel, as well.
Exactly, yeah, for Europe anyway. But even like the big teams are coming over to the from like the US to do the 360. It's on the calendar. So some of the bigger names you'll see at the Unbound, which is probably the top gravel event, are coming to do the the Traka en masse. Like the big Specialized team, the top Specialized riders. The Canyon sponsor it. All their ATR team are there. Mariah, who was second. I think Canyon won like the 200, got a podium in like the 360, and then Mariah was second in the adventure. So there's a lot of eyeballs on it, which makes it frustrating because there's plenty of race organisers out there who are a bit cowboy, and I'm sure these problems we've discussed have cropped up in numerous events over the years. But unfortunately, the spotlight's getting on it now, isn't it? And so yeah, it's a bit of a shame.
I think when riders, brands, and organisers profit from something, there does need to be a certain standard. And it feels like there's enough noise now that this event is not meeting that standard.
But I don't think it's too difficult to improve, though. And I mean, the open letter that was sent, by that group of riders we talked about, it seems to have gone to the right people. I know it's a fairly small organisation, but it doesn't seem to. I don't think it would take much to make it quite a well-run and big event. I mean, having a separate start that's fixed. I mean, on the Thursday morning start that I did last year worked quite well. So everyone's out the way, and then when the big circus starts on the Friday with the 360, because there's like 1,000 riders, which is insane, everyone's out the way, and then you all finish, and it's good. But I think they probably need someone to be dedicated to that or oversee it. Maybe an experienced race organizer elsewhere who could probably kind of oversee it, I guess. Like someone like, for example, Nelson, he wouldn't do it, I suspect, but someone who's experienced with following dots, making sure people follow the tracks, holding people accountable, so someone who maybe wanted to take a cheeky shortcut that they thought they could get away with can't. They've got to set a precedence. And
communicating it all properly before the event.
Exactly.
So that riders have access to the information to make the right decisions. And if they don't make those right decisions, you can then penalise them. I don't know what the riders were told before the event. So what can you penalise if riders didn't know they were doing?
Well, and if it's a race, call it a race. That's the thing. It's also known as the adventure. But people race, don't they? You put a load of dudes on a start line. Doesn't matter what it's called, they're going to race. And then if you have a podium and prizes, it's
if three people bend rims on descents, they're racing.
They're racing. Yeah. These people aren't turning up to not race. We've had Robin on the podcast. We know he's competitive. He didn't want to do World Cups because he could only just get top tens. I mean, that's not win them. That's competitive, isn't it? Uber. He's a very competitive rider. So I guess they need to do that. But then I guess also the insurance and permissions, probably don't have permissions to race through certain areas. Sometimes these events are not called races because insurance premiums go through the roof, and also racing on public lands, which also is a gripe on the 360. I know it's chaos because you're riding down cycle paths and things and tracks which aren't necessarily close to the public, and you've got 1,000 people going full pelt. I think it's like 360k. Well, actually it's 320 now for the 360k because it's got a bit shorter, but they're doing it in under 10 hours, which is quite quick. So I mean, there's lots that could be done. And on the doping thing, I mean, not sort of accusing anyone of doping, but obviously when people have a past, it does become a talking point. But they've got tests for the 360. So I mean, if the infrastructure's there, I think there's actually quite a good opportunity for the Traka to be ahead of the game and say, look, there'll be tests in the 560 if that's the way they want to go. And it just, again, it sets a precedent, doesn't it? A line in the sand and say, look, this isn't going to be accepted. And I don't know. I think there is potential, and it's not a bad event at all. And the media does get hold of things and make it sound a lot worse than it was. And you can't take away the fact that there's thousands of people there, and a lot of them are out there just having a good time. And they're not trying to win a race, whether it's a race or not. But I think it's worth talking about. So hopefully they can make some improvements. It would be good to see. And at worst, maybe it brings a few discussions to the table which maybe needed to be talked about in real life and not just in murmurs. But that's my monologue rant over now. Everyone's turned off. What do you think?
No, I think it's really important to talk about it. It can feel, from working at Dot Watcher, it feels quite. Some of the solutions are quite sizable. What do you do? Do we need some kind of organisation or governing body? And I think people gulp at the sound of that because that involves resources and time, which bikepacking currently doesn't have.
Yeah.
And there are lots of opinions on whether that would be effective. or in the spirit of self-supported. But I do think that now there are riders making a living from the sport. The standards need to change, and they need to be held to account to someone.
It probably falls immediately on the organisers. There's a couple of bigger organisers, probably Nelson, LostDot,
and they do it very well.
Yeah. And again, like the Traka, Classmark, they do have an opportunity to set a gold standard here, I think. So yeah, we'll see what comes out of it. So yeah, ran over.
Well, that's everything that we wanted to talk about in the podcast. So I guess we say goodbye, and we'll see for the next. Go ride our bikes, and for the next episode, we'll talk about the Tour Divide, which has come around.
We'll talk about the Grand Balkan Tour first.
Who won, my brother or I?
Yes, exactly. And the Trans-Balkan race, we'll have roundup of that, and the Hellenic Mountain race, and then it's here already. Tour Divide, the big one. It's going to be exciting. I've heard a few rumours of names on the start lists, although we never get a full start list from Tour Divide until a few days before. But we'll dive into that, and I think it's going to be exciting. Like the Divide is getting a bigger beast as well, isn't it? And there's going to be some excited riders on the start line. So yeah, we'll be back in a couple of weeks once we finish riding our bikes all over the place. So yeah, Becky, as always, thanks for joining.
Thank you very much, Josh.
And
get some ginger tea after your little monologue there.
I know. I'll just sit in a dark room in silence now. It's off my chest now. It's all good. Anyway.
Thank you, mate.
See you soon.